Hey everybody, welcome on into the Delmarva Sports Insider, your only live and local show dedicated to giving you all local sports. I'm Sports Director Brandon Bosser.
What's up? It's your Philly Sports anchor, Devin J. Martin. We got to talk about playoff action, Brandon. It's still here on the shore and in Delaware.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to start tonight in Delaware as it was a big night for the Henlopen South with a matchup in the first round of the playoffs up in the 2A. This was a very tight game.
Yeah, it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Woodbridge has been explosive all year, and they were facing Laurel. This game was really good and went down to the wire, so let's get straight into those highlights.
All right, the Blue Raiders trying to eliminate the defending two-time state champion Bulldogs down in 1A. It's their first game up in 2A. Laurel going for the fake punt, but a pack of Raiders eating them up in the backfield. So can Woodbridge add to their 6-0 lead early? Logan Moran looking to pass. Keyshawn Coates picks him off.
Great defense.
All right, and he is down right there. Got a couple of yards on the return. Start of the fourth quarter. Dogs in the red zone. They dish it. Xavier Limehouse, the first team all-district runner, stretches. He's in. So Laurel leads 7-6. They're on upset alert up there in Greenwood. Woodbridge looking for anything to get down the field to retake that lead. And this play right here, my goodness.
That was crazy. He was off all fours. He was leaping and bounding to make that catch.
That was Jaikair Banks laying out for the score. Tracy Johnson goes in for the touchdown, and Woodbridge would take the 14-7 lead. Incredible ending here in Greenwood. You see the final play right here is Laurel unable to get anything going on the final drive, and Woodbridge wins.
Wow, I thought this was going to be a high-scoring game, and credit to the Laurel Bulldogs for holding Woodbridge to 14 points. Usually the Blue Raiders score over 30 a game, but the offense for the Laurel Bulldogs just wasn't there tonight, and that's why their season's over.
If you remember the last time these two teams met, the Blue Raiders scored twice on fumble recoveries for touchdowns in the first half of that game. If not for those two fumble recoveries, Laurel and Woodbridge played to an even game. So not too surprising, but what a game up there in the 2A. Woodbridge
what a catch
is moving
as well.
On. That was amazing. That better be on the top plays. Better be. All right, now let's move on to the 1A. Polytech Panthers playing host to Glasgow, and the home crowd hungry for the program's first ever playoff game, hoping for their first ever playoff win. Isaac Balsarac, under all sorts of pressure, breaks a bunch of tackles, and the Dragons can't bring him down, finding Simon Balsarac for the long completion. Then Isaac out of the pocket again, looking for Simon. He airs it out, and Simon comes down with it. It ain't broke, don't fix it. The Balsarac connection gets the Panthers 6 points, and they're up 14-0 in the first half.
But Brandon, this is the playoffs, so wins are not going to come easy, and the Dragons defense made sure of that. They forced the fumble on the next drive, giving them a short field to work with, and then you're going to see Jamar Smith for the Dragons. He's going to get the handoff, and he's going to score. Polytech would go into halftime up 21-6, and in the second half, it was a complete defensive battle. Neither team could score in the third, and the Panthers finally iced the game, scoring a late touchdown to make the final score 28-6. So Polytech, they move on to the second round, and they get their first ever playoff win in Panthers football history.
Congratulations to the kids from Woodside.
I mean, they played very well, and they look like they were very prepared for this game. So let's see how far they can go in the 1A. Now, we're going to go up to the 3A tonight. Was absolutely wild, especially for our Henlopen teams. We had four squads.
It was crazy tonight.
Yeah, 4 squads making it to the playoffs in the 3A. So we got a great chance. Half the team from the Henlopen can maybe go for a championship. That's our 50%, but we had some teams that played each other as well. So let's go with Sussex Central. They blew out Appoquinimink tonight. Will Harmon was definitely the player of the game, maybe the player of the entire night. 4 touchdowns, 3 on the ground. Central destroys Apple 28-7. They're in the semifinals next week where they will host.
And how about this? Dover falling to Cape Henlopen at home tonight, 25-20. Congratulations to Mike Frederick, who was named the All-District Coach of the Year up there in 3A District 2. His Cape Henlopen Vikings are off to the state semifinals, and they will take on Sussex Central at the Castle next week with a chance to go to the 3A championship game.
Yeah, and they looking for some revenge too when they played them earlier in the year, and Sussex Central laid the smackdown on them. So,
and one more thing about Central, they lost to Appoquinimink earlier this year, gave up about 25 unanswered points to Appo in the fourth quarter to lose that game. But tonight, none of that.
They're really good. Central's definitely a team to look out for.
All right, now on to the game of the night. Jacob Tiberi to Phoenix Henriquez, the all-district sophomore for the touchdown. Smyrna held the lead late against Salesianum, the number 1 seed in 3A. But the Sows with the last laugh tonight. It's BJ Alleen. Up the gut, crosses the goal line with 3 ticks left in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
And Salesianum takes the 41-40 lead on that play, and that's how Smyrna's season comes to an end in the 3A quarterfinals.
Wow, that is insane. That might be the game of the playoffs, even no matter what happens for the rest of the 3A. Smyrna, a losing team, and they have Sally's the top seed on the ropes, and they're the 8th seed, but they're able to almost win, but they just couldn't get the final stop that they needed.
Yeah, and a tough loss for Smyrna tonight. Jacob Tiberi, the senior quarterback, this was his final game. 255 passing yards, 3 scores. Henriquez went over 100 yards receiving. He's going to be fantastic for Smyrna in the future, along with Drew Marks at quarterback, the freshman quarterback this year. They are set up for the future, but unfortunately this year, Smyrna, the defense, just wasn't up to par like it was last year.
And they had to deal with a lot of inconsistencies as well on the offensive side of the ball. Tonight, not one of them, but I think it's just, as you mentioned, the defense catching up with them in the playoffs.
All right, so a couple other scores. One other score, Cape Henlopen defeating Dover 25-20. Congratulations to the Vikings. That's just impressive. We got a couple other games coming up tomorrow, both in the 1A, First State Military Academy at Tatnall, and Indian River hosting Brandywine at 5 o'clock. So, Devin, what a wild night we saw tonight, especially in the 3A.
Yep, especially in the 3A. When you have a bunch of teams from the Henlopen, those teams have always been able to play each other very tough, and then they're going out of district and playing against other strong competition. Against Smyrna's the team that, even though they lost, they're the team that stuck out to me. Cape is a good candidate for that as well. But Smyrna getting 40 points, but it's just not enough.
Yep.
Just not enough.
Hey, Cape Henlopen defeating Dover on the road. Great job. And Woodbridge fighting back at the end. Fantastic way to win that game. And Polytech, first playoff win ever. It was a great night of football.
So now we got to move down from Delaware over to Maryland and begin with our top-ranked team all season, the Decatur Seahawks. Now that it's playoff time, Brandon, would they get challenged finally?
Nope. The Seahawks hosting their quarterfinal game with Wild Lake. And if we're being honest, this wasn't close. Decatur had this from the opening whistle. The number 2 seed in the tournament starts off strong. Down near the goal line, Bryson Coleman drives his way in. Decatur ahead 7-0, 2 minutes in. Now, prepare yourself for these highlights because Coleman was on point tonight at quarterback. Finds Tribe Wise along the sidelines. Great catch by Tribe. Extending for that catch. That led to a touchdown, 14-0. We interrupt this broadcast for a pick six. Ethan Bradshaw steps in front of that one, takes it all the way back. It's 21-0. They're partying in Berlin already. Wild Lake did score a touchdown, though, on a fake punt return for a touchdown, about 60 yards. But check out these passes. Coleman down the sideline.
Threading the needle.
Kareem Bolden on the reception. That led to a Brogan Eastlack field goal to make it 24-7. And right here, my favorite play of the night. Coleman scrambling, sets his feet, fires downfield. Zachary Baker.
Wow, perfect spiral.
Another threaded needle. That was just, he was putting on a clinic tonight, was Coleman. And that's why he's off to Vanderbilt next week. And Decatur goes on to win this one 52-7.
Yeah, that was definitely a great game. And they answered the one question in terms of what will they be able to do when they finally face an out-of-conference opponent. 52-7 is a definite great response to that and a great game in the playoffs. So let's see how far they can go. Maybe they can go all the way to the state championship game. Now, we're going to go down to the 1A, Cambridge South Dorchester. They host the Seed School of Maryland. Brandon, this game got ugly really quick, just like the Decatur game. Opening drive for the Vikings. Jaden Ferguson, go ahead and come on down. Open path, open lane right into the end zone. And we're not done with Ferguson just yet. He makes another play right here. Next offensive drive, he gets the ball again, torching the defense. And that right there,
blocking.
Another touchdown and great running as well. CSD is up double digits in less than 10 minutes into the first quarter. And hey, if the run game is working for you, especially on the high school level, you don't abandon it. Just give him right back to him. And what does he do? Another score. This time it's Sterling Perkins, though, finding a wide open lane off the left side to the end zone. But you got to show some love to your wide receivers, too. I mean, I don't think they just want to run routes and not get the ball. Blake LaBelle shows off the cannon. LaShawn Moody comes down with it over 2 defenders. Right, great pass, great catch. CSD, no problem. They dominate seed 48-6.
Yeah, that offensive line is just impressive for the Vikings down there in the 1A. They are a title contender, and you know what? It's going to be a great matchup coming up this coming week in the state semifinals. We'll talk about that in just a second, but first, how about one more final score? Huntingtown defeats Kent Island 35-21. We thought the Bucks had them in this one early. Tucker Claxton interception setting up a 5-yard touchdown by Shane Bagardis. But the Canes reel off 28 unanswered points, and they defeat Kent Island at home. So, hey, hats off to the Bucks on another fantastic run in the 2A playoffs.
Yeah, and that is actually a rematch of the quarterfinals from last year as well, where Kent Island was actually able to beat Huntingtown.
I believe it was 14-7?
Yes, that was a very close game as well. So, yeah, the Hurricanes able to get the revenge over the Bucks.
All right, so here's what we know for next week. We've got Cambridge South Dorchester hosting Fort Hill.
Yep.
Owings Mills lost tonight. They were the 1 seed in 2A. Decatur, the 2 seed, are going to host Milford Mill coming up in a rematch next week from last year's game in the semifinals.
Yep. And Milford Mill's the defending champions.
Yeah, they're the ones who defeated Kent Island last year as well. And then in 1A, Fort Hill wins, so Cambridge will be at Fort Hill next week. And you want to talk about a powerhouse in Maryland. Fort Hill has won 127 of their last 134 games.
Right, wow.
Since 2010. So, with 7 titles in their last 9 postseason appearances. Cambridge South Dorchester, they've had a fantastic season. They're going to have to buckle down for this one, though. They've had a lot of easy wins, but this week of practice is going to be the most important one all year.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, it's playoff time. You got to play the best of the best to get the championship, to get the trophy. And so we're going to see how they stack up against their opponent next week. And also, again, I want to touch back on Decatur. They've looked great. Bryson Coleman, I think the most impressive thing, you would think is him, being 6'5", being able to run the way that he runs. But those passes that he's made, those are at least 3 different dimes, touchdowns, beautiful. If he can continue to pass like that, he has a great shot of leading Decatur to a state championship.
That's right. And you know what? I'll say this. If Decatur or Cambridge wins next week, those teams will win the championship because these are going to be their toughest opponents all year. That'll do it for the A block. We're calling a timeout. When we come back, soccer championships coming up tomorrow and history made yesterday. That and more next on Delmarva Sports Insider.
I'm Nasai Bell, North Carolina quarterback, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.